Hi everyone. Today, we'll discuss team building and how to effectively staff, manage, and train your team. This includes everything from selecting caregivers to choosing the right agency for your needs. It's an open forum. Let's talk.
All right. Okay, so this is going to be group participation today. And we're going to start you off, let's just think, and this doesn't have to be just about communication, by the way. This can be any kinds of accessibility, any kinds of support that you might need. But did you have something else to add to this, Tim? No? Okay. I thought you said when I was building my team. Okay. Sorry. So for you all, we're just curious, who is on your team? Who do you identify as part of your support team? Who's on your team? You know, not by name, but you might say, oh, I have a direct service person, or you might say, I don't have any team members. I just have my regional center worker. Like who are the people on your teams? You can put that in the chat, or you can talk about it in person if you want. Tracy says, no team members, only regional center and my husband.
Oh.
Okay. And Elena says 3 DSPs and my CSC. Oh, we're going to get into acronyms here. I just realized that. We know what you mean, but 3 direct support and your regional center person, right? CSC is your regional center person, I believe. Okay, so that's a team for sure. Anybody else have a team of people that works with them? Bridget says, heart connection, KRC worker, hubby, son, sister, and therapist, I'm guessing you mean. So we got some more family coming in this way. Okay, anybody else? Rehab specialist, okay. Debbie says SLS staff, support living staff, day program staff, employment support, and major coordination done by my parents. Bridget says Kern Bridges. Okay, that's your persons. Tracy says, oh, I forgot about adaptive skills person. He counts. Okay, good. I'm wondering, like, who would I say is my support person? Let's see. My support person is going to be my husband, my kids. I should put it all in one. Sorry, my husband, my kids, and then my colleagues, and probably some friends. But that's my support team. Tiffany says, my dad, mom, dad, and siblings, and regional center worker and teachers. Okay. Go for it, Tim.
When I was building up my team, I wanted a variety of different types of people to help me. I didn't want everybody to have the same interest as me because that gets boring after a while, and I don't like when staff always agrees with me. But I wanted my team to be flexible to my needs and also help me gauge situations better. My team are always changing, including my family.
Your family's already changing? I'll give you that typo. The grammatical error. So how do these people that you guys have on these teams of yours, a lot of them are family, right? Anjum says a very new regional center service person. So how do you let these people know that, do they know they're on your team? Are they aware of this? Like, I'm wondering, do they identify that, oh, I'm so-and-so support, Yeah, I think you're saying, Anjum, I think you're saying that your new support regional center person doesn't know how it works. Yeah, if that's what you're saying, yikes. But how do you let people know that if you don't know, it's all mutual? Okay. Deva, would you?
Anyone that you want. You don't have to be related.
Right, no, you don't. Except for sometimes it's easier to make those people feel obligated. Um, Sue says, I am for my daughter with some long distance family and a couple of friends locally. Okay. So so Deva, you were saying that, it's mutual, that people, so are you assuming people know that they're part of your team? And Carrie says, my ISC through Momentum, caseworker and my family. Okay. So a lot of paid support, right, is on your team, and a lot of family support. That's what's kind of boiling down to, isn't it? Sue says, I include them in meetings and update with pertinent information. And I am client Anjum's mother. Right now, I am her support group. She needs more diverse people on her team and don't know how to build it. Right. This is what we are hoping to get some ideas out there. David says, there's no cone on my team, whose team I'm on, no paid support. Okay. Rachel's got some info in there for us on, I think it's on you, Rachel, right? You're telling us about you. So if you have a team, or since, I mean, we all have some kinds of teams, I'm wondering, do people like have team meetings? If you have staff that you're hiring, for example, of course, they assume you're in a team, but do they know their job is to advocate for you? That's what I'm wondering. Do people ever are you calling on these people to help advocate for you? If when you're stuck, when you're feeling not listened to, or does that not ever happen to you? How are you using your team members that you're building? My team, okay, Sabrina says that her team includes her her support dog. So it's not just humans. Okay, that's great. That's great. These are the other option resources on this topic. Oh, thank you, Rachel. Thank you. David says, I did adopt a Moroccan family of 5 to live with me and inherit my house. Well, that's interesting twist. Excellent, that's a good idea. So you took on a Moroccan family and you said, hey, come live with me and you'll end up with my house. Am I getting that right? Where is Deva? Okay, I gotta see her. For some reason, I'm not seeing anybody that I want to see here. Where are you, Deva? I want to hear about this Moroccan family. Oh, there you are. There you are. Wait, you went away. Where's Deva? Okay, here. I like when you put in the chat because it's easier for us to hear you, but I also like to see your face. 3 beautiful girls. And it's working out for you. You're feeling good about this plan. It's okay. How did you set that up, Deva? Tiffany says, I haven't been able to include the siblings in meetings. They're busy with schools and jobs. Oh, so Deva's been in this situation, this scenario, for 8 years so far. All right. I love it.
I was wondering about how, sort of person-centered planning played a role, like where people have a person-centered plan, like, how much that to me seems like the place. That's what I try to do with my son, even though, you're always modifying stuff to think through, sort of who will be on my team, what is my, you know, what are the drawing from paid supports and family and all that kind of stuff. So I was just curious to see if people were like, were there PCPs, their person-centered plans helping them out here over time?
I think that's a good point to bring up. Because I think that sometimes I feel like like I'm on a bunch of different support teams. But I feel like it's just like during that time, during that meeting time that I'm on that person's team. And yet, as a person who has my own support team that doesn't have an IPP, I'm more connected to those individuals in my own personal life. I'm wondering, how are people able to stay connected to their support teams, even if especially if they're not their staff, right? Like, how are people staying connected and letting them know what they want? Debbie says, I'm a parent answering, SLS team meeting, monthly group meeting, plus, okay, this is that. Plus, where did you go? Time spent daily, use PCT tools, supportive employment monthly meeting. You have a lot of meetings, Debbie. Okay. And Anujum, I said it right before, and now I'm not saying it right.
Arjun?
Is saying what is a person-centered plan. Who wants to describe? Nina, you want to go on to describe that?
Well, yeah. Well, so person-centered planning is a big concept that is a broad concept that it's actually definitely referenced in the Lanterman Act in sort of modern day like thinking on disabilities and other all kinds of care. It's an idea that the person, whether it's in the medical care system, the patient, the regional center client, the person is at the center and decides and discovers their needs, their support needs, their desires, the kind of life they want to live. And then there are people who are trained in person-centered planning, and certainly in the self-determination program, that is at the core of building out. It's basically a guidepost to building out your life. And that's why, I mean, so in self-determination, you really, you can use the IPP process. That's supposed to be a person-centered planning process, but you do have funding to actually do person-centered planning, have an independent facilitator that can help you to do that, to put together a plan. And it is supposed to be a living document that identifies your circle of support, the people that are helping you in your life. And, and so that's why I was curious. My son and I are very new in self-determination, but I found that person-centered planning process to be super helpful. And I just, but sort of living, like, just like Darlene's, the questions you're asking are the right ones, is sort of, how do you keep that kind of going? How do you keep all the people in your support life, in your support circle, to be in communication, in the right way, and not ganging up on you? I don't know, there's all kinds of issues that have emerged, but I guess I was curious to hear if people their person-centered plans were like the helpful reference point, or just sort of how it works in practice.
Yeah. Is it serving its purpose? Tim had something he wanted to add.
My team knows when to advocating for me and when not to step in. There is no handbook for my employees and friends and family when I need their voice. We just learn from different experiences and situations. I don't assume that my friends will advocating for me because I don't have any assumptions about them. Advocating just happens naturally. It's not forced, like a job requirements. I advocate for my friends, and they don't have a disability. It goes both ways.
So I got a question thinking about, I think this is a question I have. So what do you guys consider, like, Tim, what do you consider your support team? Like, are these people you pay, or do you have support team that includes people that you don't pay? Both? Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, okay, I'm looking because someone else led us to the next part that I wanted to go on to. My PCP, Valdamitra said, my PCP had to be updated and revised. I had to do it for my daughter. I am very hands-on. I run her care like a business. I do emails, phone calls based on what my daughter wants. She has to make the final decisions, but I run it with her. Okay, that's for your person-centered plan. And Debbie said, I found using some of the person-centered tools, not the plan per se, but ongoing use of some of the tools most helpful. And Lynn has a question. My kids are 11. How long the program of self-determination does he qualify for? Okay, that's an STP question. We'll get to that maybe. I'm sorry. Or maybe somebody can put that, Judy or somebody, Nina, you can put that in the box in the chat here for Lynn about SDP. Sue says, and what happens when those providing support are no longer able? Yeah, that's a good one too. Okay, sorry, it's Lorna. Okay, now this is good. What I want, someone mentioned like, and this is what we wanted to talk about next is like if you have an agency that hires your staff versus you personally hiring your staff. I'm wondering what is the usual thing that's happening for people? Are you personally hiring staff or is someone else providing the staff and choosing the staff for you? Tim, you hire your staff, right? Vladimitra, she hires hers. Okay. Varies by funding for Deva. And you fire, okay. And, oh, and by state too, sure, yeah. But in California, if you're in self-determination, you can be in a design that hires you hire your own staff. Or you can choose to have a agency hire your staff for you. So I'm wondering, we were wondering, like, what kind of, Debbie says we use an agency, we work together by interviewing, hiring, training, and evaluating. That's what I'm wondering. How does that work? Like if you are hiring, if your staff is being hired by an agency, especially the evaluation part, do you actually get to be a part of that evaluation? Okay, so people are saying yes. Okay, cool. And what are some of the people have been talking about this time and previous sessions as well? What are you guys looking for when you're hiring staff? And where do you look if you're getting to hire people? Lynn says, I hire people I know. Okay. Craigslist and Indeed. That's what, and loyalty, trustworthy. That's what you're looking for in people. Tracy says, I had to give up and move to agency because I couldn't find anyone. Right. Myora is saying my best staff came by word of mouth. That's the most common way, right? Debbie says, I look for who is contracting, applying with the agency, as well as referring possible hires to them for hire. Okay. Hardworking and skilled, Carrie says. Do you find that, Davis says, with IHSS, you still have the state people in the mix, even if you seek and administer your help? Vladimitra says, friends are not always the best for our family members. That you can run into trouble. We're going to talk about that later. What do you do when there's a conflict? But I look for their ability to be relational. Okay, that's a good tip, Debbie. I look for their ability to be relational. Do you have, Debbie, I don't know where Debbie is. I don't know if Debbie, would you want to come on camera? Would you want to, do you mind? Okay. Come on camera. I want to quiz Debbie. Okay. Did you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect.
Um,
So you said you look for people who are trustworthy and relational, and how do you figure that out?
Good.
Okay.
So we start with obviously we start with a meet and greet interview type process, their interest level, what their, what's their work history, all that kind of basic stuff. And you kind of get your feel, what are they interested in life? What are they, and why are they interviewing for this job? And just getting a general sense of the person. And a lot of it is really by a gut feeling about, are they really relational? Are they interacting with me in a way? How are they framing what they're talking about my son, who they haven't met yet? So we do like a pre-screen to try to find the best fits and then do the meet and greet.
Okay. And when you are advertising for these wonderful people, what is your sales pitch? What's the pitch you give to recruit people in?
So far, there's been no advertising per se, but it's been word of mouth with other people who are involved in hiring people for SDP. And we have like a parent network here that we keep in contact with each other and what's going on. That's where we got our first person who was really someone that we referred to the agency to be hired for supported living.
Okay.
My son is, he's been now only a year. We're ready for year 2 coming up like right away. So it's only been a year that he's been in SDP. That's kind of how it's worked so far.
Okay. Cool. Well, great.
Can I say one more thing? At some level, this was hard. At another level, it was easy. When we transitioned into SDP, our major reason for not being happy with traditional services was the lack of oversight that really was supposed to be done by the supported living agency. And so it's like that facilitator role. I don't know that they're called facilitators in all places, but kind of like a case manager that really is supposed to know what's going on for the person, supervise all the staff, supervise everything, know what they're doing outside of the house. An impossible role. And we were not happy with that. It just didn't work. And it's working me to death to now be taking on that role myself. But that's the piece that really didn't work in traditional services. I think we could have survived traditional services had it not been for that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's great. Thank you, Deb. So in terms of communicate, Tim, do you have something? Okay, go. Sorry.
Just don't hire the first person that you interview because oftentimes they are not the best choice for you because at the moment you are excited that you have someone, but take advantage of interviewing more applicants and make your decision when you have multiple options.
Yeah. Now, in terms of communication and communication support with your persons, how are you assuring that your staff know how your person communicates? Is that through training? Is it through videos? How do you, like, what is everybody has a different means of communication. And I figure if you're a regional center client, you probably are in that ballpark. So how are you assuring or preparing anyways, as much as you can, for your individual to be communicating? Judy, go for it.
Well, we just faced this. Hi, everybody. We are literally just have been in this for the last couple of months because my son just moved out into his own place on in early May. And so we actually created what we call a communication dictionary. Actually, we didn't call it that. It's a famous thing in the disability world. So we did not invent this in any way, shape, or form. But we created a communication dictionary for the staff that said, if my son's name is Josh, if Josh does this or says this, then it means this. Like I'll give you an example. When my son puts his hands behind his neck and he starts to rub his neck like this, it means he's stressed. So he may not say anything verbally, but they need to know that. And so there we're and it's a living document, and it's on a Google Doc. And we're constantly updating and saying, oh yeah, we forgot this, we forgot that. And so, and we are, because we hired 5 new staff that all started the same week. And that's very stressful for my son. It was stressful for all of us. So that's the first thing we did, was this communication dictionary. The second thing we did was to create a staff book. It's like 50 pages, like it's so long. And it has every single thing that they could possibly need to know about my son, from like how to plug in his phone at night, which is a very particular way to do it, not normally. And, you know, to every single little, like, how does he like to be supported in the shower? How does he like to be supported toileting? You know, all those kinds of things, very, very specific. Then there were some pieces that writing it in a book was not good enough. So we made videos as well. So we have the video on showering. We have the video on brushing his teeth, because it's a special way to do that. I think we made like 4 videos that we then embedded into this Google Doc that they can access at any time. So, and then the final thing we did is we had a 3-hour meeting with them, an orientation and a training session that my son helped to lead in his own way. And it helped increase his trust of them, for them to interact with him, and helped them. I mean, they're still not like following everything. Let me tell you, there's still like little things that we're constantly correcting them on.
Really?
And
You're
stuff.
kidding, Judy.
Yeah, I know. Shocking, huh? But it's just like, we're always saying, go back and read the staff book. Go back and look at the video. And so we at least have it all in place, where if they can't remember something, they can go back and get the resources that they need.
That's perfect. That was great. I'm glad you chopped on to say that. That was good. Anybody else have any tips for working through that whole communication piece? Deb, I'm going to bring you back. Have you unmute? Hang on. How do you unmute? I want you to unmute. I don't know how to tell you that. There you go.
I got it. I just wanted to say, one of the things that we have, my son, while he's got a lot of independent pieces to him, there's a lot of pieces that are not. So he kind of like needs oversight. He doesn't always need somebody attached to his hip. Okay. So one of the things that we have it's a daily log, and I always review it. And I'm sorry, we're kind of trapped in the old paper and pen mode. But in the middle section of it, we have a piece that's called, it's just hey, pick something out of today that really struck you. It really stood out to you, and say something about it. So it might be, okay, this is what we were doing. This is who was there. This worked really well, but this didn't work really well. So that allows me to kind of see, what are people thinking? How are they evaluating things? What are they doing or not doing? And it allows like a way to have a conversation, whether it's with that person specifically, or maybe at a staff, monthly meeting, we bring up some of the issues. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So communication is important for the individual, but it's also, as you guys have talked about, Debbie and Judy especially, it's important for the team to have that means of communication with all of you, and with the person they're supporting as well. Chantal? You got to unmute you. How do I tell you to do that? Please do that. There you go.
Hi. So, like Judy, we have some communication things that are written down somewhere, but Jeremy, he has some verbal, but mostly he points to letters or types to communicate. But for everybody, what really works is a basic piece of paper that's laminated that has 1, 2, 3, 4 or A, B, C, D for choices. And there's yes, no, and there's help. And then there's another choice. So you can always get through certain things with that. So he'll do that with about anybody. But like Judy says, it's really important to have ideas of what means what. We don't call it a communication dictionary, but that's a great name. I'm gonna maybe steal that from Judy, but
Maybe
it's
it was
like
stolen from Darlene. I don't know.
yeah, and we also have a system base camp. And so at first, when we came out of having an agency and into self-determination, we thought, oh, we don't want to do this base camp. But we realized there were certain things that we had to track with Jeremy's permission, or that Jeremy wanted to add. Like Jeremy has
Okay, wait, first Chantal, tell
Yeah.
everybody what base camp is.
So Basecamp is a kind of project management platform, and you can actually use it for free for only if you just having one group on there. So in this, on Basecamp, you can add notes, or you can also have a schedule. So the schedule is really good because that's how people can check what's going on, but also there's someone in charge of it who changes the number of hours. Let's say a staff person is out or a staff person is in or a consultant came. That's how the person who helps with the payroll can check, the actual hours of employees and also of vendors. But there's so many ways of communicating through the base camp. And then there are things that Jeremy wants us to write information about. So that's what we do. And the things he wants us to write information about are things that have to do with his diet, because that impacts his health. So, that's what it's used for.
Cool, excellent. Thank you for jumping on there. I was thinking of you as everybody else was talking. Excellent. I was looking to make sure Tim didn't have anything else he was adding in there. Do any people work under agencies where they don't feel like they get to advocate for themselves enough? Like, is anybody working? Maybe no one in the group is. Basecamp is like, it's an app, but it's a platform on your computer. Like, I don't know the link for it, but it's probably basecamp.com. I don't know. Maybe if Chantal, if you know it, you can maybe put it in the chat. Nobody has staff that come from other entities. Which would be a good thing. But okay, wanted to make sure that we didn't have to think about that. But how do you deal with communication with your staff or for yourself even when there's a conflict? When you're not happy with what they're doing, when you're not happy with what they're not doing, when maybe you're the individual and you're not being listened to, right? Again, communication is everywhere. Thank you, Elena and Chantal. Does everybody have perfect staff? Maybe that's it. Chantal, do you have an idea for conflict? I don't know what you're saying. Hang on, I'm gonna unmute you. What are you saying? Oh, you're going. Okay, goodbye. Debbie says one has to have a supervisor and manager. One has to have supervisor and manager skills. Tommy, I'm going to bring you in here. Go for it.
Sorry, clicking all the buttons. Hi.
Hi, thanks for
Trying
joining.
to finish my salad, so hopefully I can. We're pretty new to this, and so I'm kind of just listening, but I have had a couple of situations, so I'll just share. Generally speaking, I know that my nervous system tends to get really triggered very quickly. And so I would say the first thing is to try to take a breath, and it helps me to step back because it's hard when you're the mom to not be so emotionally invested and charged by the whole thing. So sometimes, I mean, I will sometimes try to talk it through with someone else first, but generally speaking, what's been helpful to me is to take a step back and say, okay, what is the need that my son has that's not being met, or that the family, because he's still living at home. And so I try to really separate myself and think about it from, there was one DVU webinar that where they were talking about hiring. And I remember she was saying that, you have to always go back to what is the need, what are the responsibilities, where are they meeting those responsibilities or not meeting those responsibilities, just things like that.
Right.
And so I try to go to that part of my brain and be very linear that way, so that when I have the conversation, I can be kind but direct as best as I can. So I practice it a little bit beforehand. And, this is just me. Some people, it might be very natural for them. Maybe they're in management. I'm not. And I'm kind of one of those people pleasers that doesn't ever want to bother anybody. So it's challenging to be in this role. But I have found that the more I can sort of be very clear in my mind about what it is that's not working, if it's hopefully not too emotionally charged, and try to have a direct conversation that gives space for, this is what we need, as opposed to this is what you're doing wrong. This is, but this is what we need. And this happening right now is not meeting our needs. And is this something that you feel you can change? You know what I mean? Because sometimes they can't, maybe I can't get here any earlier, or I can't, whatever it might be. So it's hard because it's hard, so I would just say, try to separate your emotions, try to be really clear about what it is that's working or not working, and maybe practice a little communicating that as directly and kindly as you can.
So I have a question for you and whoever else wants to join in this, but so how about for your son, if he's not happy with what's happening in his schedule or with the staff and the way they're managing the schedule, how's he communicating that to you all?
I know, right? What you mean? This isn't all about me.
Yeah.
Since what do they call it? I'm the manager. Well, it would depend. Sometimes it's through his actions.
Okay.
And then we try to confirm that if we can. Our situation right now is sometimes communication can be challenging if regulation is not there. Of course, the first thing always would be, if there is a way to get some communication, for them to be in charge. Yes. And that is a skill to practice, right? Is you being in charge and, you figuring out how this might be a good way how to resolve this or how to communicate that. Mm-hmm. But right now I would say it's either through an action, or if he's regulated and he's able to communicate, then checking in, possibly not at that moment, but maybe later, and getting some feedback about what's working and not working. Mm-hmm. At this point, right now, I have normally been the one to sort of then relay that or maybe try to rectify the situation. Mm-hmm. But ideally, and Chantal, maybe, I don't know who else is on the call, jumped on late, but I'd love to hear if Chantal, well, she's probably gone. But, I think that speaking directly from the person who's being supported, who is the boss, to their employees, I think the beauty of that as well is that the person who is working for them gets to hear directly from them, and it establishes the right rapport, I guess is what I'm trying to say. While it should be a partnership and there should be genuine caring, there is also an employer-employee relationship that I think can be better established when the communication comes directly from them. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm turning totally red right now, but there you have it.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks.
I'm flushing.
Thank you for supporting.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so Vladimitra, you have something to say here. I'm gonna unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just thinking, well, my daughter is the type that she's a mimicker, and she's not very secure as far as talking with people about, any issues, but she will communicate that with me. We've had several situations where one worker, where we had her for a little while, she really wasn't doing any work like she should have. And then she was kind of overbearing and, and trying. My daughter's 34 years old, but she was almost like she was mothering and telling her what she, should do and whatever. And then she was trying to force her to do things that she didn't want to do, which is my daughter's choice, whether she wants to do those things. She is an adult. I even have to respect the fact that she's an adult. So there are certain things I ask her opinions, and I want to get her involved. She's not the type where she's going to take over and do things yet, but that was our goal for hiring certain people to help her to, do things like want to go to the store alone, or want to shop on her own, or, make certain decisions on her own. But the person that we had was more kind of forcing her or pushing her, and my daughter just didn't like that. And we gave her an opportunity to change her ways and to work certain ways, but it just was not working for my daughter, and my daughter was not happy with that. So we wound up having to let that person go. And that person wasn't as if she was working for my daughter. She was more concerned about her situation than she was concerned about my daughter. So because of that, we just couldn't keep her. And I'm not the type that, the reason that I'm hiring these people is because I am a business owner myself. I wanted someone that's going to take over the role that I was doing. And when that person wasn't meeting that needs and it wasn't fulfilling what my daughter needed, we had to let her go. And it's nothing personal against the person. It's just the job that they were hired to do. If you're not doing it and you
Right.
don't feel like you're going to go forward doing it, then there's no reason for us to keep you, and definitely not going to put you on next year's budget. And she actually came to me. She's like, well, are you going to put me on next year's budget? And I'm like, I'll have to, really look into that, because I'm not sure if you're meeting my daughter's needs. And she would come back to, oh, well, you're going to put me on this book because I got to pay my rent and whatever. And I'm like, but that's not our job or our concern. My concern was we hired you to do a job for my daughter.
Right.
So we wound up having to let her go, and after she let her go, she came back, or she contacted us saying, well, I know I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, but maybe we should just talk, whatever. But now it's too late.
No.
So,
You know,
you have to be in control of the situation. This is your child. This is this is our business. You're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to do. If you're not doing it, then we can't keep you. So,
well, and I heard a while back, I heard this man speaking about business, and he said that no one ever fires you from a job you're doing well.
exactly. Exactly.
Nobody got fired for doing a job well.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you're not saying this person wasn't doing well. It's just she wasn't doing what you
She was
needed.
up for my daughter. She was a beautiful person and all
Right.
that, but she wasn't. The reason I hired her was to accomplish certain goals for my daughter. She was not meeting those goals. So it had nothing to do with her our personalities. It's just, you're not the one for this situation.
Right.
I had another person who we couldn't keep her because she just wasn't doing enough hours. There was supposed to be a minimum amount of hours that you were supposed to fulfill. She was not fulfilling them. So you're not doing what we agreed upon either. So, and they can't take it personally. Like you said, there's nobody that gets let go when they're doing a great job. If you're not doing a great job, you already know. Usually when you're not doing a good job, you already know that there's a chance you're going to be let go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, Nina, what did you want to say on this?
I'm just like, this is so great. I mean, just in the position of, having staff and needing more for my son who recently in the SDP, like, oh my God, Tommy and Valdemitra, so great. And oh my God, Debbie and Judy, it's been really great. I guess sort of following on the last couple of comments, one of the things that I am struggling with is when there is tension with staff, like there are issues, my son is deeply, deeply attached to them. And in many ways, it's not necessarily straightforward. They're in many ways doing a lot that's right, a lot that's really good, and he's deeply attached. But they are, there are other issues and tensions are high, and he's absorbing every bit of it. And he doesn't live, he lives in his own place. So these are just the things that I think I'm trying to work out. But and I know I think the key is having other staff ready in the wings. And there's just it's really hitting home, just sort of all that is involved in this. But the effect on my son, you can see what the tension is doing. But he will staunchly defend his beloved staff. So there's a lot of it, a lot of issues.
Well, and I think what you're bringing up too, Nina, is talking about respecting a person's communication through their regulation and through their anxieties and such. And so I think reminding, just to bring this back to communication a little bit, reminding the team and being that spokesperson for the team that this is communication, this is something we're listening to. If your son's getting dysregulated and anxious because people aren't following their schedule or they always show up late or whatever his needs are, because I know he likes things in a certain way, then that's anxiety producing for him. And we are seeing it this way, right? And so helping people understand that you're paying attention to that as well, right? You're not just paying attention to the words that he says. Yeah, perfect. Tim's got something he wants to add in here.
I let my lead staff know if things goes horribly wrong with a staff member, if I don't want to deal with it right then. But overall, I'm very straightforward with all of my staff to let them know that something is wrong. But before I speak to them, I go to Eric, say whatever I want to say and see the best way how I should approach it, because emotions get to you and I always get a second opinion before reacting to the situation. If Eric is not available, I ask my friends or my brothers or Darlene or Judy or anybody that wants to listen. I don't like to react right away because it can be challenging and overwhelming. I like to take a step back, process my thoughts and figure it out after with others in my circle. If it's about food or little stuff, I let them know right away that they are not doing their job.
That's because food is his priority. If you know Tim, you know how funny that statement is. He could have no batteries in his device, but if you got to have food on that table. Oh my God. That's great. Very good, Tim. Thank you for that. I got you here. I'm going to pull in Madamitra.
I wanted to say, yeah, I agree with Tim. I don't just jump into a situation when it's not working. I do speak to other people. I let them know the situation, what has been handled. Also, in reference to the other speaker, my daughter, yeah, one of the situations was this girl, she wanted to be her friend because my daughter doesn't really have her friends. So she wanted to be her friends. And all of that is great. But I have to think about what happens if I am no longer here. My daughter has to be able to function if I am no longer here. And that is the goal for this self-determination program, for her being in this program. And that is more important right now. That is the goal that we're working on. So we have to be business people. We really do. We have to take care of business. And that's what I'm doing. So, but I do agree with Tim. Before I make a decision, I speak with other people to see how they feel it. Am I overreacting as a mom? Am I, too emotional about the situation? Or based on what has happened, what do you think about this situation? I always do that because, there's more wisdom in many counselors than just jumping on the situation because you're emotional.
Yeah.
So.
So thanks for that. That's perfect. And that's another great lead into another thing that we wanted to talk about was how do you set the boundaries for your staff? I mean, you know, I'm thinking even communication wise, a boundary of if a parent or a lead staff is saying one thing and then the person they work for is saying it another way and saying they want something different. Like where are these boundaries and how do you set these boundaries for yourself and for your staff so that it's pretty clear as to who's in charge when or how we think. Maybe it's even values, like if you have values, right? Those sometimes our values have boundaries to them. Carrie's saying, I was in the hospital and rehab for a broken bone for 7 weeks. I noticed that meds weren't being taken at the right time. So I had to tell my ISC, who talked to the nurses. Things got better. The feeding was another issue. My elderly dad and mom, I'm assuming you're gonna jump in, had to come. Yeah, and that's what we're gonna talk about next is what about building your medical team, your healthcare team? But how about these boundaries? Anybody need boundaries? Anybody establish boundaries? Tommy says the balance of giving feedback. Hang on, I'm gonna take this off. The balance of giving feedback but not micromanaging can be tricky. I use all of the feedback that my son has given in the past to guide my decisions and approach. Yeah. I like that too. You're talking about feedback from the past, right? So prior knowledge. That's real important and valid, especially for some people who maybe go into those moments of kind of crisis, like where they're not communicating so effectively and they might need some more help. And that's really what a support person's doing, right? You're taking that prior knowledge that you know about that person and you're bringing it forward and you're asking good questions or you're making great statements. Either way, you know, you're including that individual because of your prior knowledge. Tommy? I don't know why. Can you? There you go.
Am I unmuted?
Mhm.
Better. The boundaries. So you're talking about when you're talking about like the culture in our home or preferences that my son has expressed. I think of those as boundaries, and it's not easy. I think that I try to model it as much as possible, give describe different scenarios that and how he has responded to it, always emphasizing this is what he has asked for, this is what his priorities are. This is you know, I very much relate to what Valdemitra was saying in terms of, you know, he's a young man and it's really easy in that role. I think there is very much a culture of I'm here to manage you, I'm here to teach you something, I'm here, and that's not always their fault. That is sort of a culture that's been created and a very hard one to undo. And so I think that I try to always bring it back to that. Like, this is what his preference is, and this is what he needs right now, and this is what he's expressed. If you know, sharing different types of articles or blog posts, sometimes that stuff is helpful, sometimes it's not. I don't think I've quite figured out the best way to I mean, I can certainly give them all sorts of things, but how do you share it in a way that's meaningful? I think I joined when, I don't know if it's Debbie or Deborah was speaking about like finding a way for there to be more of an interaction over something that happened during the day, or maybe a piece of content that you're sharing that might help to enlighten about your culture or your loved one's situation. I would love some tips about that as well. I think sometimes finding a way, because life can be hectic, right? There's a lot of like just getting through the day and doing this and doing that, and stepping back and reflecting doesn't always happen all that smoothly. But I think when you find opportunities to do that, that can be very helpful also in setting that up. So anyway, I'm done.
Thanks, Tommy. Judy?
Yeah, I agree with everything Tommy just said. So just to add to it, I think the boundaries are really hard because you are supervising the staff, and yet you want to have a good relationship with them. And so it's like, sometimes you actually slip into like friendship and buddyship and stuff to this staff member. And then it becomes really complicated when you need to talk, be their supervisor, like talk to them about doing a better job. And so it's a really difficult balance, but you have to have both. Like, I'm not saying you need to be friends with like all the staff, like that's really your choice. But we have a staff that's been with my son for 18 years. Like, how could you not consider that person part of your family? Of course, he's traveled all over the place with us. He's, so close with us. He now is one of the people who lives with my son full time. But we also, there are times when we make it very clear, like there's the social parts of our relationship. And then there are times when we're like, you have to remember to lock the freaking front door because there can be bad people coming in the door. So, there's the thing that I've learned as far as supervising is that you should tell people immediately if there's a mistake that's been made. Don't make it personal and give them ways to correct the mistake and then move on. And then unless obviously if they like threaten somebody. There's certain exceptions to that. But it's like, it's I have to tell you, my husband can be very, very difficult, like a difficult supervisor. So we have an unwritten rule in our household that I'm the person who communicates with the staff, and my husband doesn't, so that they stay with us. And he loves this idea, so he doesn't have to deal with it. But it's like, you can't be friends with your staff all the time because sometimes you have to tell them when they're not doing a great job or correct them about things. So it's hard.
Yeah. Thanks, Judy. That's perfect. I think, are you saying you were going to say something, Tim? Okay.
My staff members knows when I'm working. They help me more professional way when they are helping me because I tell them that they are my shadow and whatever they are doing at the time, it reflects on me. When I'm out and about and having a good time with my friends, my staff members are having fun and the boundaries changes, but they are always helping me first. My boundaries are clear and straightforward, and my team's members knows because I have 8 staff and I always including them whatever I do with work and fun. So they can adapt to the situation we are in.
Yeah. And Carrie's saying to teach different aides how to feed me, thank goodness. My own staff was able to come to rehab for 4 hours to help me with lunch and my personal needs. Because a lot of times, you guys have specific needs and ways of doing things and such. I was just thinking as you were talking though, probably having this conversation about boundaries is important in the beginning. Not in a big deal, like, let's just be clear kind of a way, but in a way to kind of say, you know what, I want you to hang with me at a concert. I don't want you to be standing there waiting for a goodie, but then I want you to be able to flip it over and remember I'm the boss. And, maybe having that kind of frank conversation is important in the beginning so that people aren't surprised or confused when Tim, who took me to that concert with him and acted like we were having a good time, all of a sudden is telling me, I don't like when you do it this way. That
Exactly, Darlene.
Yeah. And so have those kind of conversations, I think, early on. I remember William's not here today, but one thing that William and I put together a few years back, probably in 2020, was an accommodation list for him, where he just defined everything that he needs as an accommodation. And he said why he needed it, because people would say, oh, well, yeah, I don't know where his computer is or his iPad is. Like, well, that's his voice. So you don't get to say you don't know where it is, or we forgot to charge it. And so he pointed out that here's why I'm so much a stickler on this, here, why it's so important to me. And so maybe making those kind of statements or paperwork things, or however you want to do it, videos, just kind of describing, this is why you're going to see me flipping, right? First and foremost, I'm a dependent person. I need some support. Second thing is, I want us all to have a good time living together and like each other, right? And so kind of defining how that works for you, almost like you would your accommodations and why they're so important. I like that. Now, finally, I wanted to talk about if anybody has this in their life, how do you figure out your healthcare needs? Like, what role do those people play? Because it might not be a doctor. It might be you have a certain PA that you connect with, or it might be that you have home health coming into your house. Or it might be that you have medication needs. And how do you negotiate and kind of express that at the same time? Anybody with their medical issues that they have to express and talk about? I know, Eric, you were kind of talking about this a little bit too. I don't know if you're there and could jump in, but you had some good thoughts on this topic. Gathering vendors, equipment needs, counselors, if you need counselors. Anybody have anything on that? You don't have to. I just wanted to open it up. Okay, Tommy, let's get you in here. Where'd you go, Tommy? I'm going to read Alvar's too in a second here, but I'm going to bring Tommy on. But I'm going to read Alvar first. She said, I am all about clearly defining everything at the beginning. Something I have dealt with is people not wanting to read it all and getting overwhelmed with it, or thinking I'm over unnecessarily detail oriented. Of course, that type of response indicates someone isn't a good fit, but it is not always possible to get a good fit in my experience. It's something you note though, and you pay attention to, right? When you see it, you're like, I'm gonna watch this, and this might come up later as a thing that I gotta think about. Like Tommy, who's a friend of mine, she knows not to write me long emails. She learned this early on. She said, you don't read my whole email, do you, Darlene? And then she made them shorter.
It's your accommodation.
It was my accommodation. Clarity, we did it.
Well, Alvar, I am right there with you because I love very detailed lists. That is what I tend to do with medical stuff. I know what we're looking at right now is how does the individual who's being supported, who have to live a life without mom around, and so I am right now sort of the hub of that. He joins in, most of our doctor's appointments are Zoom, and he joins in whenever he can. His feedback is always hugely valuable. I mean, sometimes it can be a sentence and we get to pivot everything around that sentence. It's very powerful, particularly when deciding to shift a medication or, just things like that. Mm-hmm. I'm always so appreciative. And that's when I talk about prior knowledge, like if I can't get feedback on a particular situation, I think, well, how did he feel about that before? And how can I infuse that into the decision we're making right now? But one of the things I wanted to say that I was thinking about earlier when you were speaking about one of the other questions is if I am the one that has to, and I'm saying it out loud because I'm not doing this perfectly by any stretch of the imagination. I'm oftentimes just getting through the day. And so I'm reminding myself that if he at this time isn't able to participate in a particular decision, then taking the time to speak with him about it, even if it's not regulated enough to communicate in the moment, but going through maybe, your thought process with it. what you're thinking about, maybe some of the research that you found, and speaking about all of that out loud all the time. I'm reminding myself to do that, because I will do bits and pieces of it, but I think modeling that process is just as powerful, as, if not more so, because the truth is, for someone to come to you and say, how do you feel about doing this? What do you want to do that? And constantly being asked these questions can be really overwhelming for any of us. And I think it's more powerful to sort of give that information, share your process, and let them know what the doctor said and what the pros and cons were, and let them marinate with that. And then there might be another time that's not even when you're talking about that particular medical situation, that they may chime in and say, by the way, I'm not interested in that, or please let's move forward with that. So I'm trying to really always narrate that process out loud. And I think that can be used in any aspect of their lives, or even if something's coming up with, a support partner. Sometimes I'll say out loud, I notice every time this, during this time that you're with this person, I notice you getting very dysregulated, and I'm not sure how you're feeling, but it feels to me like you might be uncomfortable with the way he's speaking to you. And sometimes in that moment, I'll see him calm or smile. And then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'm onto something there, Yeah. Learned this from the great Debbie Spangler. But, just that whole, you can kind of guess, maybe take a guess at what you think might be going on, and see if there's a physical response to, especially if you have a loved one that's non-speaking and maybe either doesn't have reliable communication, or in that moment doesn't have access to it. And so those are some of my thoughts. Thank you.
No, those are good. I was thinking to, and now I lost my thought maybe. Hang on, I'm gonna take this off real quick. What was I thinking about when you were saying that? 1 second. No, it's gonna go further away from me. Dang it, it was a good one too. What? Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I think we need to give people permission to spend the time like you're talking about, Tommy. And I know Jeremy and Chantal do this all the time. I don't know if there probably are other people on these teams that do these things too. I think sometimes making the list of what you need to talk about, or what you need to train about, or what you need to change in your life, that seems like it's a big conversation. And so you take on responsibility as the lead yourself, and you just take care of it, right? But I think making the time to sit down with your individuals who have communication differences of whatever kind they might be, and talk it through with them and get their input, and know that that's going to take time. So that's another reason why you're not moving too fast, right? On these kinds of things, it might be actually helpful because you're not being impulsive, because you're going to say, hey, I got to check in with my son, or I got to check in with my daughter and see how they want to problem solve this. And I think in order for people, I'm not in your shoes, so I'm just hypothesizing, but if it was me, in order for me to gain some kind of comfort with the next step when it's not me in charge, I would need to know that I knew my son or daughter could participate in that conversation in some fashion, and what it looked like, so that the person that is going to step in is doing that, and I can see that happening, right? Because it's been part of how we are. Because then it doesn't matter if my son Leon isn't saying what he wants to say right in the moment. I know that my support staff, Cheyenne, knows how to bring Leon into the conversation. So then I'm comfortable with that part. And so I can kind of step away a little bit. I don't know. That's just a thinking I have, that we really have to help our individuals be in the center of the person-centered planning, and show everyone on the team how we support them to be that person, so that everyone on the team pays attention to those moments and then starts modeling and emulating you, so that when it comes time to pass the torch, you can feel like you're sending it off to a receiving person that knows, right? That's just what I'm thinking. Okay. Okay, Carrie says, oh boy, I've been going through this right now with my home health care and PT. I had this agency before, so they understand my needs and wants. So Carrie, you're having to advocate for what you need in terms of PT and home health care? And are people listening to you? Yeah, okay. All right, you have a team that understands how you communicate and they know how to listen to you, right? You got it, that's foundational, I would think. Yeah. I'm glad you're healthier. I'm glad you're feeling better now. Cool. So I want to leave these last few minutes. I want to send these last few minutes to Tim.
Tommy has gotten a lot better with her email to me. She knows that I don't read it all, but just see her points and reply from there.
You trained her well. All right, so Tim, you're taking it away here. I'm going to do this because I want to.
I have some news to share with you all. This is my last Communication Access Connect, as I've decided to move on from DVU. I want to thank Arlene for having me and for not dismissing my off-the-wall ideas session after session. A big thank you to Nina as well, for always being the silent observer in our meetings and offering input when needed. I also want to express my gratitude to William, who isn't here today, but taught me far more than I taught him. And thank you, Eric, for trying to deciphering my messages and understanding what I meant. And this goes to everyone at DVU. Darlene, together we created something unique and invaluable, a community where everyone can join and participate. I always felt most at ease during Communication Access Connect because we had the freedom to express our thoughts without boundaries. This isn't goodbye or even see you later. I'll still be around, just in a different capacity at somewhere else. Darlene, this has always been part of your legacy, and I'm happy to have been part of the journey. We have done amazing things together. Judy, if you are listening, thank you for trusting in me, and thank you everyone for your comfort. I will see you around.
Thank you, Tim, for those kind words and for sharing all that with everybody. Kathy Manrica says, oh my God, Tim, we are going to miss, what is she saying? We're going to miss you. Best of everything for you, Tim. Love you and all your input over the years. And Debbie says, thank you, Tim, for being and having been there. Russian says, wow, Tim, you will be missed. Alvar says, I will miss having you here, Tim, and I appreciate getting to know you and learn from you here at DVU, but definitely won't be the last time we connect. And Tommy says, Tim, you are the best. Can't wait to see you and what is next. And so Nina and I, and then whoever comes in with us, we're going to carry this torch. So Tim, I want to thank you too. And even all the hard things that I, throw at you and just harass you with and all that kind of thing. But the reality is that the part I think I most appreciated is that you are just a go-getter and you go find people to communicate, to take, this person's going to do this speaking engagement. This person's going to do this. You just are a connector. And so I'm feeling a little stressed about responsibility because I really do. I mean, I really just threw that ball onto your court and said, play ball, Tim.
It's fun.
I know, but you're good at it and you do it with ease. And it was something I didn't even have to think about. It was never my job personally, but it was the part that you did so well and so beautifully. And so I'm gonna miss that a lot. So I want to thank you so much for all that you did do. How long have you been here, Tim? 2 years? 3 years? 10? 2? Is it 2?
No,
Okay.
he's a co-founder of DVU.
No, I mean in CAC. I mean,
Oh, okay.
2 years in CAC. Okay. But he is a co-founder. And so that puts him with us how many years, Judy?
Well, I guess we first talked about it in 2016. And then we had a retreat in early 2017 that in Palm Springs with Tim and me and Connie and Harvey Lapin and a bunch of other self-advocates and family members. And then Tim was on our founding board along with Nina. We move people from the board to the staff a lot. And then I told Tim at some point, yeah, you got to start working for us now that we have a little bit of money. So we are devastated, but we will miss you terribly. And we wish you all the greatest luck in your new endeavor. And we know you will never be far from us because we will be talking to you and harassing you on a regular basis. So do not worry.
Harassing is the word. Tim has these, like, the ideas, like, not just these finding these amazing speakers and the amazing topics, but he has ideas going 24/7, and some of the best are in the dead middle of the night. And if I still better be getting them, Tim, because I'm gonna bug you. I'm gonna bug you so much. I'm just never gonna stop, because we have this thing, and your ideas are beyond amazing, especially when it comes to like communication. So you can't get rid of us ever.
Yeah. I'm going to read some more here, Tim. Let's see. Tommy, I think might have read this, but Tim, you're the best. Can't wait to see you. What is next for you? Valerio says, we're missing Tim. Good luck to you and hope to see you around. Sue says, best to you, Tim. Thank you for everything. Valerio says, you are a brave man. Kathy says, yes, Tim is amazing. And Tanya said something. Tanya says, does Tim have Instagram? Do you? I think you do. I don't know. You just go in on other people's. And then, well, so you're saying no, you don't? No, he does not have Instagram. Carrie says, Tim got me involved in these meetings. Valeria says, miss you, sorry. Delfinia says, buena suerte, Tim, y Dios te away. And now I've lost it. I can't do the rest.
Illumine siempre.
I started off so good. Thank you, Lorna. I started off like I could do it. Tim, Mo says, Tim, you've been an icon and always will be missed. David says you need to connect with communication first. I think he is already connected with communication first.
He's on their board.
He's on the board of it.
Yep.
Okay, enough.
No, we're not
Thank you,
done.
everybody.
It's only 5:21. Be quiet. I'm gonna mute him. Muting Tim. Okay. Jackie says, all the best in your new endeavor, Tim. I'm sure you will sparkle your magic on all the roads you travel. Deva says, I will let you go. I will let you. Good to me too. Okay, so I guess she's on communication first. I'm not sure what you're talking. I think you're referring to communication first, rather. Okay, very good. Yeah. All right there, Tim. Now you can talk if you want to. There you go. Well, we're still going to continue the meetings, and we will meet once a month as we always do. Oh, Kiana has a question. If anyone knows of someone in Whittier that would like to join our care staff, please let me know. Always looking for caring staff. And how old is your person, Kiana? What do you want? Okay.
Can I also make just a quick announcement?
Yeah.
That Disability Voices United is very excited to announce that we received a major grant to develop a supported decision-making training and information center. And it's a project that we're going to be leading over the next 18 months as part of the law that we helped get passed to put supported decision-making into California law for the first time. We are going to be advertising for a director of the Training and Information Center in the next probably day or two. I've been multitasking and working on the job announcement during this meeting. But this would be a great group to advertise this job. You have to be an experienced kind of like leader and trainer. But it's a great opportunity, and we are particularly looking for people with disabilities to hire for this role. So stay on our mailing list, and you'll get the job announcement in the next day or two.
Okay. Cool. So you can, unlike Tim, you can work for us or with us.
Torturing Tim is so much fun.
I
I'm
know.
gonna miss it
So good.
so much. I know. It's the
Carrie
best.
says, yes, I saw that. Yeah, so and this department, this Communication Access Connect, we've always worked real closely with supported decision making. I mean, we started from the supported decision making grant that we first had in 2020 or whatever that was. And then we kind of went in this direction as well. So I think this is a good group of people that might have some background in such a subject as speaking up for yourself. All right. Okay, well, I think that's all we have, unless someone else has something. We will see you on, oh, Alvar says, this topic was helpful because I need to work more on putting together a team to better support myself. So thanks to everyone who shared tips today. Thanks, Alvar. And, make working for you fun and responsible, right? Perfect. Okay, so we will see you on, I was gonna look up on my calendar, July 16th will be our next CAC meeting. We're gonna make Tim put together one more topic, and then we'll take it from there. Uh-oh, he's got something else. See, he can't help himself.
Two more.
Tomorrow? You mean Thursday?
I already planned for 2 more sessions for Communication Access Connect to help you.
All right, because you don't want me, I told him I was gonna make a voodoo doll and put pins in it. And so he doesn't want that. So, okay, fine, talk to you later, Tim. Okay, yeah, I was gonna tie his toes up too. All right, thank you all. And we'll see you soon.